vegetable of truma with regarding a vegetable of truma with a beaten egg placed on top of it, and a Tevul Yom touched the egg, he has rendered puzzle only the stalk opposite him. Rabbi Yossi says he renders puzzle the entire upper layer. However, if the egg was like a helmet, there is no connection. Regarding a streak of egg that was baked onto the walls of a pan and the Tevul Yom touched it from the rim and inward, it is a connection. From the rim and outward, it is not a connection. Rabbi Yossi says the streak and all that peels off with it. The same ruling applies to legumes that form the crust on the edge of a pot. A dough that becomes a dimyu mixture or that was leavened with sourdough of truma is not rendered puzzle by the touch of a Tevul Yom, but Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon rule it's puzzle. Regarding a dough that was rendered susceptible by tuma by a beverage and was kneaded with the fruit juice, and a Tevul Yom touched it, Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda said, Rabbi Bartosa says in the name of Rabbi Shua, the Tevul Yom has rendered puzzle the entire dough. Rabbi Kiva says in Rabbi Yeshua's name, he has rendered puzzle only the place he touched.
Okay,
Regarding, that's it.
that's it. Yeah. All right. So hey, Yarak shel chulin. Okay, so here's our setup again. You've got chulin vegetables. Shebishlo b'shemen shel truma. So the kohen took his truma oil and cooked the vegetables in the truma oil. Okay. Now this entire mixture is also for a non-kohen to eat. Because the oil is now absorbed into the chulin vegetables.
Mhm.
Okay. Now comes the problem. Nagabo Tvul Yom. So now a Tvul Yom came and touched the tavshil. Okay, so and he's got the ability to be pasul truma. So now the question is, how much of it is going to be pasul? Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda ish bar Tosa. Okay, that is the same guy who spoke in the previous Mishnah.
Yeah.
Okay. And he says in the name of Rabbi Yeshua, pasul bekulo. He says the whole thing. So just like in the previous Mishnah, the entire thing is electrically connected. He puzzled the truma oil, which is absorbed into the vegetables, and everything is now asa for the kohen to eat. Rabbi Akiva Omer Mishmo, he says you got the wrong Masorah. Rabbi Yeshua said lo pasal ela makom magao. Only place that's pasal is dafka the place that he touched, and since the vegetable itself is chulin.
Mhm.
The only problem is the truma oil that's absorbed into it. So let's take out a piece. If you touch the vegetable that's got oil in it, and cut off a piece of that vegetable where you touched, and put it aside and burn it or whatever. But the rest of the tavshil is fine. Okay. Mishnah Vav is quite a tough one. I was trying to understand. I was trying to understand this because honestly, I don't really chap. Oh, perhaps is the first thing is that is that why it fell on his clothing. Let's just get into the Mishnah. Tahor shen nagas min ha'ochel. So you've got a tahor person. Okay, he's chewing his food and he, I don't know, he coughs or sneezes, whatever, and some food falls out of his mouth, and it first touches his clothes, and then it falls onto um and then it falls onto a
He said
loaf
a loaf of truma.
of truma, but we've got to say that this loaf was kneaded with fruit juice,
It's tahor.
right? Does Article make that comment? Because Kahati actually didn't. But I
It
assume
says
it must have been kneaded with fruit juice because otherwise we wouldn't be talking about whether or not it is susceptible to tuma because once you've kneaded it with water, for sure it's susceptible to tuma. Okay, so we're talking about a loaf that was kneaded like mazonas bread. Okay, so the food fell out of his mouth, it fell onto his clothes, and therefore Kahati makes the comment over here since the saliva is not desired after it fell on his since it fell on his clothes, it's not he's not happy about it being wet, and now it falls onto the truma. It's tahor. Okay, in other words, tahor meaning that it is not susceptible to tuma. Even we're talking about a tahor person in the first place, so there's no reason why it should actually become tame. What we're talking about is its makabel tuma. Haya ochel zeisim petzuim. Now, what happens if he's eating olives that have been broken open and the seeds taken out with tamarim retubos or wet dates. Kol shehu rotze lamot esgari naso, and he wants to suck on the seed. So now this, what's the difference between this and the previous case? Is that he wanted his saliva on the seed because that's how he's getting the whatever
Right.
um last bits of um last bits of flavor out of the seed. Okay. Benafal al begadav, and then it fell on his clothing. Va'al kikar shel truma. Even though it fell on his clothing first, it now fell onto this loaf of truma. Tame, no, not actually tame, but makabel tuma. It's mukhshal tuma. And does ArtScroll agree with that statement?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay. So tame is not mamish tame. It's makabel tuma. Haya ochel zaisim neguvim. He's eating dry
Right.
herbs. Okay, or tamarim yaveshos, so dry dates. Kol she'enu rotzeh lamot esgari naso. Anything where he's not intending to suck the seed. Menafal al begadav al kikar shel truma tahor, and then it fell on his clothing or and then onto the bread
Yeah.
that is still tahor. Echad tahor ve'echad tevul yom ka'elu. And this is true whether the person is completely tahor or even if he's a tevul yom, because his liquids, the liquids that come out of him, even if he's a tevul yom, he's nonetheless technically tahor. All that they would just treat him with the stringency of a sheni latuma until evening, but not the liquids that come out of him. Okay. Rabbi Meir Omer Elu ve'elu tmein betul yom shemashkin shel tamei machshirin leratzona v'shelo ratzona. Rabbi Meir's shita is that if he's a sheni latuma, then if the liquids that come out of him are also they're machshir whether he likes it or not. Okay, v'chachamim omrim ein tuvul yom tamei. So you're misreading the situation. Tevul Yom is not Tame. It's not like he's not a Balkari, he's not a Zav, he's not anything like that. He's a Tevul Yom who's been to mikveh, um, and we're just being machmir on him that he shouldn't touch truma until evening, but there's no actual tuma involved. Okay, and halacha kechachamim. Okay, Perik Daled. Ochel maser shehuchsha b'mashke. Okay, so just to remind you the process of taking trumas and masras. First, you've got your pile of produce, and you
Mhm.
take out first a piece of truma gedola, and that goes to the kohen. Then you got to take a tenth of what's left, and that is maser rishon. So maser rishon is supposed to go to a levi if you can prove he's a levi.
Mhm.
Okay, it's considered chulin, and then from that maser rishon you take trumas maser, a tenth of that, and
Okay.
that is also going to the kohen. So now we know that in maser rishon there is a portion that's going to go to the kohen. It's going to be called truma, but it hasn't yet been designated in our case over here. So now this produce that was set aside for maser rishon um, it became mukhshar with a liquid. Okay, so now it's ready to be makabel tuma.
Mhm.
Agabo tvul yom, and a tvul yom came and touched it. So now you can hear already what's the or yadayim mesova. So even with somebody with unclean hands, which are also called the sheni latuma.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so now you can already hear what's the question going to be. The maser rishon is itself chulin, but it contains within it something that's going to become truma. So do we have a problem with the Trumas Maser that's going to be taken out of it? And the answer from the Mishnah is pretty clear. Mafrishin mimenu Trumas Maser Batara. Somebody else can come and take the Trumas Maser off it, and it is considered tahor, even if like let's say you've got apples, right? And a Tvul Yom touched the apples, touched all of the apples before we took Chomas Master off it. Okay. And now somebody else who's Tahor comes and says, let me, he takes a tenth of the apples and puts them aside to be Chumas Maser. That Chumas Maser is completely Tahor, even though so as somebody touched it before, because at the time that he touched it, it was still chulin. It only takes on the shame of truma once it has been designated and set aside, and then it becomes truma and susceptible to truma there. Okay.
It says here because the Meiser Rishon is a Shlishi, and a Shlishi is Tahor in the case of Kulin.
Yep, exactly. So,
Right.
so it's a shlishi, which a shlishi is tar b'chulin, and what we learn from this Mishnah is that Maser Rishon remains chulin until the moment that the Trumas Maser has been separated, and that is only when it becomes truma.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Good.
let's go back to Zavim.
One who touches a zava or a mida, a woman who has given birth, a mitzvah or a midrash contaminated couch or seat, contaminates two and invalidates one. Once he separates and contaminates one and invalidates one, and this ruling applies equally to one who touches, or one who moves, or one who carries, and one who is carried. One who touches the zav fluid of a zav or a saliva or a semen or his urine, or he touches the menstrual blood of a nida, contaminates two, invalidates one. Once he separates, he contaminates one and invalidates one. This ruling applies equally to one who touches and to one who moves. The Rebbe Eliezer says, providing that he carries it. And one who carries the contaminated saddle of a zav, or one who is carried upon it, or one who moves it, contaminates two and invalidates one. Once he separates, he contaminates one and invalidates one. One who carries an animal carcass or purification with water of an amount sufficient for sprinkling contaminates two and invalidates one. Once he separates and contaminates one and invalidates one.
Hmm.
Sorry. I just my son-in-law is calling me. Just going to take 1 second, please.
That's
Hi, Yitzi.
okay.
Okay, finish that, right? So,
Nida,
so
yeah,
we're
Nida.
gonna go. We're gonna go on to. Do I finish nine? No. I have
Um,
one more to go.
yeah,
That's it.
well, look, we're gonna finish Zavim again during Rosh Hashanah, so then we go on to Tvul Yom again.
So Yom again. Okay. Okay. So Nida.
Yeah, test.
If one was accustomed to experience a menstrual discharge at the beginning of the episodes, all of the taharos that she handled for the duration of the episodes are tame. If at the end of the episodes, all the taharos that she handled for the duration of the episodes are tahor. Rabbi Yossi says days and hours also are established as fixed periods. If she was accustomed to experience a discharge at sunrise, she is forbidden for cohabitation only at sunrise. And Rabbi Yehuda says the entire day is permitted for her. If she was accustomed to experience a discharge every 15th day and she changed to discharging on the 20th day, both this day and that day are forbidden. If she changed twice in the 20th day, both this day and that day are forbidden. If she changed 3 times on the 20th day, the 15th day becomes permitted and she has established herself for the 20th day as a fixed period. For a woman does not establish for herself a fixed period until she establishes it 3 times, and she does not become free from a fixed period until it is uprooted from her 3 times. Women in their virginity are like vines. There is a vine whose wine is red, and there is a vine whose wine is black. There is a vine, there is a vine who is plentiful, and there is a vine whose wine is meager. The Yehuda says every vine has wine in it, and that which has no vine is a dorkete. Okay.
Okay. Hara, ches.
Oh, I'm sorry, Shaw. I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. Hey. Chet. All the seas are like a mikveh, as it is said, and the gathering mikveh of waters he called seas. These are the words of Ramea. The Yehuda says only the great sea is like a mikveh, and it says seas only because it contains many kinds of seas. The Yoshi says all the seas can be purified while flowing, but they are unfit for zavim and mitzorim and for concentrating, therefore purification water. Smitten waters are invalid. They are considered to be smitten waters. They are salty or lukewarm. Waters that cease to flow are invalid, and waters that cease once they ceased in 7 years. I'm sorry. These are waters that cease, and if they cease once in 7 years, waters that cease during military campaigns and in years of drought are valid. Yehuda disqualifies them. The waters of the Carmel River and the waters of the Puga River are disqualified because they are marsh waters. The waters of the Jordan River and the waters of the Yarmuk River are invalid because they are mingled waters. And these are mingled waters, one valid source and one invalid water source that became intermixed. However, two valid water sources that became mixed are valid, and Reb Yehuda disqualifies them. Okay. We are on to Jesus. They said to him, you are forbidden fat. He brings a katos. If a witness says he ate and
You
another,
ate forbidden fat.
you're right. You're not forbidden, you're right. And they said to him, you ate forbidden fat. He brings a katos. The witness says he ate, and another witness said he did not eat. Or if a woman says he ate and another woman says he did not eat, he must bring an asham to it. If a witness says he ate and he says I did not eat, he's exempt. If two say he ate and he says I did not eat, Rameya declares him liable, and said Rameya, if two can bring him to the more severe penalty, death penalty, can they not bring him to the lighter penalty of an offering? And they said to him, what if he would want to say, I was an intentional transgressor? If he ate two portions of Caleb in one lapse of awareness, he is liable to only one katos. But if he ate Caleb blood, leftover offerings, and pickle, and in one lapse of awareness, he is liable for each one. In this, many kinds are more stringent than one kind, but in the following, one kind is more stringent than many kinds. If he ate an olive's bulk and again ate half an olive's bulk, if they were of one kind, he is liable. Of two kinds, he is exempt. How much, and how much time may it take for him to eat them? As if he would eat them as parched grains of corn. These are the words of Rameya. But the sages say, until it takes no more than the beginning to the end that it would take to eat a peris. If he ate tame foodstuffs or drank tame beverages, or if he drank a revius of wine and entered the temple and tarried in the consumption for as long as it takes to eat a peris, he is liable. Eliezer says, if he interrupted or if he diluted it with at least a bit of water, he's exempt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Baba Kama.
Okay. Test. If he gave it over to an unpaid guardian, to a borrower, or to a paid guardian, or to a renter, the latter is responsible in lieu of the owner. For a muad, he pays the full damages, and for a tom, he pays the half damages. If his owner tied it with a rein or locked the stall before it properly, and it went out and damaged whether it was a tom or muad, he's liable. These are the words of the mayor. But Yehuda says the owner of a tom is liable. The owner of a muad is exempt, as it is said, and its owner does not watch it, and this one is watched. Reb Elliot says no guarding, it is sufficient except the knife. If a bull gores a cow and a fetus is found at its side and it is not known whether it gave birth before it was gored or whether it gave birth after it was gored, the owner of the bull pays for half the damages done to the cow and 1/4 of the damage done to the young. Likewise, if a cow gores a bull and its young is found at its side and it is not known whether it was gored before it gave birth or whether it gored after it gave birth, the owner of the cow pays half the damages from the cow or the fourth of the damages from the young.
Okay, now when they say that fourth, that's definitely got to be sumchus. I just got to remind myself because sumchus this is like if there's a suffix that you split the money, but this is not the halacha.
Uh,
Because we hold halacha is that hamotzi mechaver alav haraya, that if you want to claim anything, you got to prove that you've got to prove your case, and it's not um and if you can't prove it, then you get nothing. Not you don't get half of it.
and
So
this says, in our case, however, since there is doubt whether the calf was born before or after the goring, he collects only half the balance from the calf. The following of
but
Sumchus.
you'll see in the commentary that's it's sumchus. Yeah, sumchus is the best yachid here. Okay, all right,
If a
carry on.
potter if a potter brings his pots into another's yard without permission and the other person's animal breaks them, he's exempt. If it is injured and if he gores the other person's bull, the owner of the goring bull is liable. If he falls into his pit and makes its water foul, he's liable. If his father or his son was in it, he pays ransom. But if he brings it with permission, the owner of the yard is liable. How does one pay the value of the fetus? We appraise how much the woman was worth before giving birth and how much she's worth since giving birth. Said Rebbe Shimon Gamliel, if so, when the woman gives birth, she increases her value.
Just
Rather, we
slow
appraise
down,
how,
slow down a second here. I've completely lost you. Where are you? Did you
I'm,
skip a page or
I'm
something?
in, I'm in Hey Daled. I go too far?
You skipped pages. You,
Really?
yes, you skipped. I think you were on Mishna base, and then like I don't know where you went from there.
Let me go to Gimel. Let me Gimel down.
No, no, Gimmel's already for tomorrow. Uh,
Base. If a potter brings his pot, you're right. If a potter brings his pots to another's yard without permission and the other person's animal breaks them, he's exempt. If it is injured by them, the owner of the pots is liable. If he brings them in permission, the owner of the yard is liable. If one brings his produce into another's yard without permission and the other person's animal eats them, he is exempt. If it is injured by them, the owner of the produce is liable. If he brings them or is in with permission, the owner of the yard is liable. Okay.
Okay, that's it. Okay.
I don't know why I went so many pages ahead. I don't know.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Aaron.
Good. Good. Love you. If one resident of the outer forgot to contribute to the Erev, the inner is permitted while the outer is prohibited. If one from the inner forgot, both are prohibited. If they place the Erev in one place and one resident of either the inner or the outer forgot to contribute to the Erev, both are prohibited. If they were inhabited by individuals, they need not make an Erev. A window between two courtyards, if it is 4 by 4 fists within 10, they may make two Arabs, or if they wish, they may make one Arab less than 4 by 4 or higher than 10. They may make two Arabim, but they may not make one Arab. If a wall between two yards is 10 fists high and 4 wide, they may make two Arabim, but they may not make one Arab. If there was fruit on top of it, they ascend from here and eat, and if they ascend from there and eat, provided they do not bring down. If the wall was breached up to 10 cubits, they may make two Arabin, or if they wish one Arab, because it is like an entrance. Greater than that, they make one Arab, but may not make two Arabin.
Okay. And that's
All right.
it.
Okay. So
Um,
Sunday,